Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are really looking forward to kind of kickstarting the season around Celebrate Trails. And as you see there, April 24th, 2021, and Suzanne, as we get into this in a little bit, she'll talk about some of the changes this year, but it will now be the fourth Saturday of April every year. So it'll be a lot of folks ask us every year, when is it? Remind us. It'll be really easy to mark your calendar for 2021 and beyond. But this year, Celebrate Trails happens in a slightly different context and with a pandemic as the backdrop. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of what we're trying to achieve this year and the value of trails that we're trying to celebrate. If we can go to the next slide, please. A lot of you probably know and have seen firsthand on the trails, either in your communities or the trails that you manage, that trail use after the pandemic began really skyrocketed. The total for 2020 was more than 50% increase year over year, and that is substantial. Some new data has recently come out of the Outdoor Industry Association that showed big increases across all different types of outdoor activities, camping, fishing, etc. But nothing, by far, multi-use trail use eclipsed all of those increases, in many cases double what they had seen. And it's really important as we're looking at why, right? So one of those reasons we think is, of course, because trails are close to home, but also we have done some surveying and we found that nearly half of the people out there using trails have said that those open spaces are reducing their stress levels during the pandemic. So really incredible well-being factors in terms of people having access to these spaces and using these spaces. Next point, please. The other thing that I think is really important is that vast majorities of the population have told us during the pandemic that they believe trails contribute significantly to the well-being of the community. So people are using their trails at higher numbers than ever before. Trails are helpful for stress reduction, and they're really kind of being viewed as important to the well-being of a community and the people who live there. Next, please. And this data point just kind of wraps it all up that, and this was actually surveyed in May of last year, so I imagine those numbers would be even more substantial now. But kind of partway into the pandemic, what people were saying was that now they're seeing that trails are even more important than they thought they were before. So all of that, just a quick snapshot of the true value that trails have been delivering to people in this time. And as the pandemic continues to press on, we do have, I think, a lot of challenges to think about how do we continue to showcase that value to make sure people remember kind of the service that trails contributed to their lives during this time. And so one of the ways we can do that is by leveraging Celebrate Trails Day and kind of reimagining it a bit. Next slide. So for those of you on the line who have participated in what was formerly called Opening Day for Trails, it was really organized around events, big events, small events, every kind of event all across the country. And obviously, when we got into 2020, the April opening day for trails really had to be completely overhauled. We did not want to encourage events nationwide at the start of the pandemic, and we had a 100% virtual celebration. It was our first kind of Celebrate Trails theme, and it was really all about, we were already seeing surges in trail use. We were already seeing so much real kind of joy and, these spaces for people to just be outside during this time that was really uncertain and really hard, and still is, quite frankly. But we know that a year into this, people don't want to just do things virtually anymore. Zoom fatigue is real. I don't know how trails address Zoom fatigue other than giving you a break from your computer. So looking at where kind of the country is, how trail use has really in the outdoors have been shown repeatedly to be one of the safest places that you can be, we've decided to really shift Celebrate Trails at Home to Celebrate Trails Day, formally encouraging people to do responsible activities, recreate responsibly out on the trails that are close to home. So we're not encouraging those big events, but we are encouraging people to get outside, use their trails on this day, and really send a big message that trails matter to me, trails matter to my community, trails are really important to my life. Next slide. So our goal is to really encourage people to be active outside and to amplify that participation through a day of action to really demonstrate the value and impact that trails provide right now in this very difficult moment, but that we have provided for the long term and will continue to provide. One of the things that we've been talking about at RTC is that the pandemic has really accelerated kind of an ongoing culture shift towards trails, walking, and biking. Increases of use are year over year always. This is just a spike. Increases in walking and biking are always going up, even if it's marginal. This was a spike. So what we want to do is amplify that. We want people to really kind of view it, see it, understand how important the trails are in their community. We also want to keep motivating people to get outside. We know that during this time, being motivated can be hard, especially coming off of winter. Regardless of where you live in the country, days are shorter. Most of the country has experienced really volatile weather this winter season. So, keeping people motivated, giving them new ideas to get outside, a lot of what we're going to be focusing on for Celebrate Trails Day this year. So our metrics, before we counted events, back in slide, we counted events. We counted, how many people were participating in those events. This year, we're focusing on the number of people actually getting out on trails, and Suzanne's going to walk us through what that looks like and how that works. We're going to count the number of minutes that people were active outside. This was a health metric that we wanted to start introducing last year, and obviously we postponed it for pandemic reasons. But this year, we're going to really launch that. And after Celebrate Trails Day is over, we're going to serve people a survey, just asking them how much time do they spend outside, a little bit about what they did, so that we can report how important this infrastructure is to motivating people to be active outside. And we also want, as a metric, we also want to see the number of different types of partners, different types of trail organizations, nonprofits, and brands that are elevating the day. They're helping to get their people outside, providing resources to motivate people to get outside on that day. Next slide, please. Another backdrop to Celebrate Trails Day this year is an initiative that RTC launched in the late summer, so right around Labor Day in 2020, to try to capture the stories and the voices of people who have found trails during this time, new to trail users, even those people who have been using trails for a long time, those more avid cyclists, avid walkers, avid trail users, but who maybe have found new meaning, new joy, new respite, in trails in their communities. So Trail Moments is still happening. It's in the background as of right now, just because we're in this kind of off-trail season. We're still promoting it, but we're going to launch that big again in the spring with the goal to continue bringing in those stories that can be leveraged in local advocacy and federal advocacy and just day-to-day outreach to both inspire people to continue to use trails in their daily lives, but also to encourage and to share with decision makers just how important this infrastructure has been. Next slide, please. And you can see these are just a handful of quotes that have come in from folks, but we have over 1,300 stories that have been submitted so far. And we expect as we get into spring for those numbers to just grow and grow and grow. And most of them are just so poignant in terms of the value, the connection to space, the connection to other people that folks have been able to find on the trails during this time. And in a lot of cases, folks sharing, how that has maybe been a continuation of a journey they've been on for a long time. So all of this is happening around Celebrate Trails Day. It is a real common thread that's going to run through. We really want to showcase and celebrate those important connections people are having to the space and to each other and to nature. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Suzanne to talk a little bit about what are the details, what's really happening on this day.
All right, thanks, Brandy. And you can advance to the next slide. At the team side, my name is Suzanne Matthews. I'm a marketing and social media manager here at Rails-to-Trails Conservancy. Thank you all for joining us today. As Brandy mentioned, the Zoom fatigue is real, so we really appreciate you hopping on. And if at any time in this webinar you need to move about a bit, don't worry, your camera is off, so feel free to do so. In general, I'll be one of your go-to people for this year's Celebrate Trails Day celebration. So if you have questions that you don't think of right now, feel free to email them to me. Our contact information will be shared again at the end. So to get started, I want to briefly go over what we'll be talking about today. So Brandy very eloquently shared that trail use is up during the pandemic as people are looking to the outdoors for wellness and solace, and these spaces are more important than ever. And folks have been sharing those stories. Which is why for this year's Celebrate Trails Day, we're asking people to simply get outside and to celebrate trails. Very simple. And to do so safely in the context of the pandemic for this year's celebration. If you haven't already marked it down, we'll see how many times we'll share it during this webinar alone. But Celebrate Trails Day is Saturday, April 24th, and it will be henceforth the fourth Saturday of April. So a few new elements this year. One, we're still living in a pandemic, unfortunately, and to prioritize health and safety, we're not supporting or encouraging any large in-person gatherings, and we're asking folks to enjoy activities that allow them to recreate responsibly. And to help demonstrate the importance of trails in this moment, we'll also be collecting self-reported trail use information. Next slide, please. So what I will be focusing on next, there we are. What do we mean by recreate responsibly, if you haven't already heard about it? Then I'm going to be digging a bit more into the survey features that we discussed and how we're collecting that information. What's the timeline? Super important, as time is kind of a weird blob at this point in our lives. How RTC, excuse me, is making it easy to participate, and how you or your group can get involved, including on the actual Celebrate Trails Day and before. And then we'll end with a Q&A session. So if you haven't already seen that Q&A feature, go ahead and drop your questions in there. So next, we have our Recreate Responsibly and Share the Trail guidelines that we are encouraging folks to stick to this year. So what do we mean by that, and how will we help people do that? Well, ultimately, we mean activities that follow all of the federal, state, local guidance for COVID safety, and that we're going to encourage people to follow these tips. These ones are the Recreate Responsibly ones that you see on your screen, created by the Recreate Responsibly Coalition. They're all pretty helpful, and they're things that a lot of us know, but there are a lot of new folks on the trails these days, so it's very helpful to continue to share this information. This is available on our website, on the Recreate Responsibly website, and then on several others. So know before you go, do a little research before you head outside, practice physical distancing. We all have heard that golden 6-foot rule, but making sure there's a safe distance between you and others. Plan ahead. If you're going to need snacks, water, that sort of thing. Play it safe. Make sure that you're avoiding anything that could be treacherous or cause pressure on any sort of emergency services. Explore locally. This year, we're really focusing on celebrating trails close to home. A lot of the trails that folks like you champion, staying closer to home is a widely recommended piece of advice. Leaving no trace. So what that means is making sure that you're responsible about any waste that you bring in. And then, of course, building an inclusive outdoors. So making sure that everybody feels welcome in those spaces. Next, please. And then, as well as to follow good trail etiquette, which is super important, especially as we're celebrating trails, and extra important as more and more people are spending time on trails. So these are some of the RTC, we call them our Share the Trail tips, guidelines. And there are things that a lot of you already know, but again, there are folks who are new to the trail. So using safe speeds, standing aside when you're standing still, keep right, pass on the left, be alert when you're on the trail, know and follow the rules. As we know, a lot of trails that have slightly different rules and guidelines, whether it's operating times or what have you. And then we have kind of our new little COVID graphic about keeping your distance. So we're going to be encouraging activities that follow all of these guidelines. So in case, to drill that down a little bit further, our general do's, right? We have solo activities or with your household activities, whether that's like going on a bike ride or going on a walk with your children. Virtual activities are always welcome. Again, we did a virtual celebration last year. Some folks are doing like hybrids this year. They might have a virtual 5K where folks are signing up online, but then they're actually doing it in person on their trail. And then small group activities that follow all of those safety, like CDC guidelines, local guidelines. Those are really outdoors. People should have masks that allow for safe distancing, and then not anything that supports crowds. So invite only is a really good move there, just so you can make sure that you know how many people will be joining. And then the don'ts, as fun as this might look for folks who are missing concerts and things, we are not encouraging this type of activity, ones that have large crowds moving together. Next, please. So how we're going to be connecting people with this information? How are we going to be introducing them to these resources that promote enjoyable ways to get outdoors, that also allow them to recreate responsibly and to share the trail responsibly? So one way we're going to be doing that, as Brandy touched on, is we're going to be we're going to be asking people to RSVP. So we know that they're going to be celebrating trails. That way they'll get reminders about the event, or excuse me, the celebration, and those great resources that we mentioned, including, tips for responsible trail use these days and good trail etiquette, but also those resources on like how to go birding for the first time, whatnot. And we're hoping that you all will help us really curate and provide those really excellent resources. And to incentivize participation of folks across the country, we'll be offering some prizes courtesy of our 2021 Celebrate Trails Day sponsors to the first eligible 150 people to register. So that's the RSVP. And then the survey, again, Brandy touched on this one too, that is after Celebrate Trails Day. If you want to think about it as kind of like a confirmation, in a way where we want people to report back on like, hey, did you actually get outside on the trail? Let us know how much time you spent outside and that sort of thing. And what we're going to be doing with this information, especially with the RSVP, we're going to be using this data, this information collected to visualize participation. And we're going to be bringing in some partner information too, so we'll have a beautiful picture of everyday folks who are getting out on the trail, but also the groups and the partners who are championing these trails and making them work these days and maintaining them, that sort of thing, all mapped out beautifully. And this is a really cool way to be able to have folks, represent their communities, represent their trails. Through the RSVP forms, they'll be asked to share like their approximate location. They'll show up on the map. If we're asking them to say like, hey, what are you planning or what are you thinking of doing? So if somebody's planning to go for a run or a walk, there'll be a special icon to designate what that's going to be. So that way we'll be able to get an idea of how many folks are participating and what they're doing and kind of where they're doing it. And then for the survey that follows Celebrate Trails Day, we'll be also offering some special prizes for folks who fill that out. Thank you. Next, please. So timing, as you can see here, January, we already happened. You can believe it, we're halfway through February. So we did a bit of planning, save the dates. Right now we're working on our outreach and engagement with you all, our wonderful partners, to help you plan ahead and to work on getting those resources ready to go, but also letting our grassroots or the trail users community know that, hey, this is a fun day that's coming up and we want you to participate. As we move towards March, we're going to be focusing more so on supplying folks with those resources, really curating those trail adventures, things that people can do on Celebrate Trails Day. And again, we'll be working with partners like you to be able to have that information ready to go for folks. And then on April, a few more reminders for folks to get outside and to celebrate with us on April 24th. And then on April 24th, RTC is going to be amplifying what's happening. We're going to be asking folks to share what they're doing using hashtags Celebrate Trails on social media. So we're sharing that with the world. We're inviting all of you, our partners, to do the same so we can help kind of highlight and elevate what you all are up to. And then also, again, to really continue to share those great resources. And this year, kind of a great bonus is we have a few other special days that are within the week that we're doing Celebrate Trails Day. So it's Earth Day on April 22nd. Some folks, or it's also kind of Earth Week, Earth Month, all throughout April. It's National Park Week. So there's a fee-free day actually on the start of the week, and it carries on all the way through Celebrate Trails Day. And then Arbor Day is also within that week. So it's just a really great way to help increase visibility even more. And again, one of the major goals here is to help elevate you all and what you're doing on the trails through these resources and through this map to visualize participation. But these special days that align kind of that happen naturally along with Celebrate Trails Day will help increase that visibility even more. All right, next, please. All right, so how can we make it easy for you to get involved to celebrate this year? So RTC is planning to share the word about the celebration. We mentioned that already. We're going to be doing that through our social media channels. We're going to be doing that through our email. We already have our website up. It's kind of the one-stop shop for all things Celebrate Trails Day, but we'll also be engaging media to help get the word out about it. And then, we're also going to be working with you all, right? So we're going to be hopefully getting some great resources that you would like to share with the world, but we're also going to be making that easy for you. So we have those intake form, that registration form that we kind of mentioned to start collecting that information. But we've also created a very helpful promotional toolkit, because a lot of you know, one of the biggest hurdles for doing anything like this is just getting the word out there. So we want to make that as easy as possible. And we have created that toolkit, which you'll be able to find on our Celebrate Trails Day website. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is a screenshot of what that homepage looks like. We'll do, hopefully if video decides to cooperate, we'll do a little video to walk you through what the website looks like in just a second. But again, this is on the Rails-to-Trails Conservancy website. This is where you can go for all the updates. So from here, this is that kind of homepage. You can see we have quick links to different pieces of the menu or different options of what's available on the website. There's that RSVP form for the grassroots, the community. So you can go ahead and let us know they're participating. We have a whole partner section right there. So as a partner, you can register. And then our partner toolkit, those are those promotional resources we talked about. And then we have links to those Share the Trail and Recreate Responsibly guidelines that we mentioned, as well as resources to help people find trails close to them, your trails. And so we'll take a quick look here at what these RSVP forms look like. So again, this is the one that's for the grassroots, for the trail users or for people who are new to trails. It asks simple information like your name, that sort of thing, what activity you're thinking of doing, location. And then we'll go to your partner section. So this registration form, kind of similar looking to the RSVP form. Again, name, kind of contact information, your group's name or organizational name, briefly describe what you all do, contact email in case we need to get in touch with you, your website, where you're located, and then also, we can see here just how easy it is to drop your location. And this will be, again, plotted on that map we talked about, that participation map, your logo. So by asking these pieces of information, when folks are on that participation map, they will be able to click, hey, look at that, that's a trail group I know, or like, hey, that's interesting, I want to know more about that group. And they'll be able to look at those resources that you shared. Your logo will come up, your website, if you're supplying that information. So from here, going through the partner section of the website, right there, you can see the webinar is promoted. That's where the recording will live if you miss a moment of this. On that toolkit, we have a series of our Celebrate Trails Day logos. You just save it to your computer. You can use those, they're ready to go. They're just PNGs. So we've got a couple of options for you there. And then we have our customizable templates. This is that turnkey material to make it easy for you to get the word out. So from here, it just brings you to a Google Drive that we've set up, Google Drive folder. So we have sample social media posts. All you have to do is plug in your information that's highlighted. And then if you have social media, just share it through your channels. Very straightforward. We have kind of a pre-Celebrate Trails Day, and then, as we get closer to Celebrate Trails Day. Sample newsletter, sample press materials, sample email. So it's really easy for you to get the word out. And then the promotional graphics, always a fan favorite. We have 3 different options this year. By just clicking any one of those, it'll download a zip file of variously sized graphics. So for Twitter or for Instagram, for email. So it's ready to go for you. All right, so what you can do to help make this celebration a big success, one of them is helping us get the word out, using that toolkit that we just shared, using #CelebrateTrails on social media, emailing your folks, putting it in the newsletter, what have you, making sure that you sign up so that you are, again, kind of visualized on that map. So we have information on all the different groups who are participating in this, as well as the different people, the trail users who are also participating. If you have any ideas for celebrating trails that follow Recreate Responsibly, Share the Trail guidelines, again, how to go birding, how to go on a trail walk, how to make pine cone art with whatever you have on the trail with your kids, whatever that is. If you have that, whether it's like a link to a blog or if it's a fun video, like a tune up your bike video, what have you, you'll be able to share that through that sign up form. And then staying tuned, we'll continue to share kind of updates and resources as we get closer to Celebrate Trails Day. And then joining us to celebrate trails on April 24th, and us and folks across the country, we're really hoping to bring some joy to people during this time, and for trails to get the love and the appreciation that they really deserve, and just for folks to realize how wonderful it is to have these resources close to home, and for decision makers and whomever else to really take stock and say, yes, these are important resources for the community. So recap here, in case you missed any of it, we have Reimagine Celebrate Trails Day to, again, kind of make sure that we're promoting a safe public health and safety during this time. It's Saturday, April 24th. No large groups, please. We're encouraging folks to do kind of solo with household virtual celebrations. RTC has a bunch of great resources to help you participate. We'll be collecting some participation information, again, just to show the impact of trails and the value. You can help make it a success. And if you have any questions, or if you want to find any of this stuff, you can go on ahead to our Celebrate Trails website, which is just rails-to-trails.org/celebrate trails. And we'll be sharing that too with you all. All right.
So Suzanne, I just want to chime in on a couple of things. Now that we're kind of at the questions thing, I've been chatting with folks in the Q&A as we've been going along, and just wanted to draw attention to a couple of really, I just thought, either great ideas or kind of questions that kept coming up. One was this idea of creating maybe some very specific resources like pavement stickers or something that people could pre-order. And I think we'll talk to some folks and see what's possible there. I just love that idea. And I think suggestions around like maybe recreate responsibly guidelines, or share the trail rules, or even maybe we could build in some of the trail moment stuff, but things that would have some durability for the season, since it's the start of the season. I think that that's really awesome. So we can look into that. We can look into costs, and maybe we can send a post survey or something to participants to see if anybody would be interested in participating in something like that. The other kind of two ideas that came up around content and just ideas and maybe places where people need support. So resources to help folks like organize games, kind of self-guided games, things people can do on their own. Scavenger hunts have been done, bingo has been done, all the things have been done. I would say keep doing those things. People tend to love it. The scavenger hunts, they just keep popping up all over the place. But if anybody, when they're submitting their participation into the map, if you have creative ideas around things you've done that are like kind of self-guided games or incentivizing people to participate on the trail with you from a safe distance, share those. I think there's all the resources to kind of guide people, but I love the idea around kind of gamifying the experience as well, if anybody's done that successfully. And then a question very specifically came up around advocacy and whether there were ideas for kind of leveraging the day to engage with policymakers, especially because the other thing that was happening on the backdrop of is federal transportation reauthorization. We anticipate there will be movement on that this spring and into the summer. We've all heard the new administration talk a lot about infrastructure bills and strategies around economic stimulus that directly relates to infrastructure. So I think that's a great idea, and we do have some good resources that we can pop into the toolkit to help people just kind of start thinking about absolutely maybe bringing somebody, out on the trail that day as part of Celebrate Trails Day. If you have a champion legislator in your community, have them come out, maybe record something and pop it up on social media. I know there's a lot of things, again, using this day as an amplifier, as an opportunity to really just kind of draw attention to the fact that trails are so important in your community. And then a lot of questions about trail moments. And I just wanted to share that we are, as we're gearing up for the spring campaign, if you are participating, stay tuned. There is an email coming from me. I have been delayed in getting that out, but there is one coming that will just kind of share updates on timeline, kind of our current plans around the length of that campaign. We anticipate for sure it will go through the summer. Some of it has to do with resources on our end, but also interest, and the interest just continues to be really high. So if you have signs in the ground and they're still surviving the winter, keep them up. If you took your signs out and held on to them, put them back in. And when I send out some communication to partners, we'll also engage with 10, again, the Trail Expert Network, just to encourage people, if they want to participate for the first time this spring, you can do so. And our intention would be to get signs out to folks prior to Celebrate Trails Day. So more on that coming, but thank you for your ongoing enthusiasm and support. I think one of the most important things, it's really hard to catch all of these new trail users. Trail counts tell us a lot about the numbers of people, but they don't tell us much about the people. They don't tell us who they are or why they're there or what's happening while they're there. And so this is an opportunity, we can't catch everybody in the world, but we can get a really good snapshot of the impact of trails during this time that will have good value for the long term. So just a couple things I saw that I wanted to comment on.
And somebody helpfully asked to clarify the date. So April 24th, Saturday, April 24th is the 2021 celebration day for Celebrate Trails Day. Going forward, it will be the 4th Saturday of April. So easy to just mark it on your calendar, set it as a recurring appointment and forget it until that day or getting closer to it. Thanks for that question. And if anybody else has questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A right now. We have a couple of more minutes to answer anything.
I think while people are gathering questions, super excited about this opportunity to provide just really resources and ideas for people to get outside. I think, Suzanne, you and I and a lot of folks on our team hear from trail users or kind of interested trail users a lot, and everyone's looking for things that we feel like are, of course, people know, how to plan a walk, or of course, people know kind of how to get out with their kids. You'd be surprised how many people really are looking for those resources and that information. And I think that this is a great opportunity to try to just kind of give more information and tools to everyday folks who might be looking for ways to get out and be active.
Yeah, people are looking for fun things to do as we've been familiar with our homes these last few months or couple months. So does this apply to rail trails or any trail system? This is for trails in general. RTC, we have Rails-to-Trails in the name, but multi-use trails in general, with anywhere you can do biking, walking. But if there is a hiking trail, that is, as long as it is something that is open and it's close to home, that is where we're encouraging folks to get outside and celebrate. Is there a fee to be a part of this? No, there is not. Thanks for asking. Trails are open for all. Live feeds of trail activity on Celebrate Trails Day. So RTC will be amplifying what's going on. If you are doing a live feed through your organization's, like social media account or something, whatever that may look like, be sure to tag us at Rails-to-Trails in it. Use the hashtag Celebrate Trails. That will ping us so we know that something's going on, and we'll be able to help amplify all of that activity. And then lastly, I see a question about prizes and the excitement surrounding those. So we're offering those prizes to encourage folks to RSVP to Celebrate Trails with us. So again, that we can help connect them with those resources and let them know more updates going forward. That is built right into the RSVP form. So it should be very seamless and easy for folks to just say that they're going to be getting involved or they're going to be celebrating trails on April 24th, and possibly that they will get some great prizes courtesy of our 2021 sponsors for Celebrate Trails Day.
Oh, another one just popped up. Surveys for that day only. I think that's a question about kind of the activity. So our idea is we want to be able to say that on this day, on April 24th, we were able to generate this number of minutes, really as a proxy for the fact that trails really do encourage more physical activity, and having programming on trails is really important for getting people active and outside. So the question will be specific to that day, but I think we can use it in a lot of ways in our ongoing outreach and advocacy to really showcase how trails can be beneficial to all sorts of aspects of community life and people's day-to-day lives.
Somebody asked about sponsorship. So on our Celebrate Trails Day website, you can see our current list of sponsors right there. If you are interested in sponsorship, there's a link right there to get in touch with our team. And if you want to notify your friends and possible sponsors about Celebrate Trails Day ASAP, yes, please go on ahead and refer them to the Celebrate Trails Day section of the Rails-to-Trails website. It's, again, the central hub of all things surrounding the celebration. It has links to get in touch with the various members of our team, as well as any updates.
And we have a question about what is a trail moment. And so, basically Trail Moments is a campaign that we started last year in 2020 in response, very specifically in response to the pandemic, in response to the surge in trail users that people were reporting all across the country, in an effort to try to connect with them in some way, knowing that a lot of these people are new to trails, maybe not in our kind of various ecosystems or probably not on our email lists or things like that. We saw huge surges of people coming to Rails-to-Trails Conservancy's TrailLink database. So that number, we had over 10 million visitors to TrailLink last year, which is a enormous year-over-year increase for us. And not all those folks, they might kind of sign in just to get the map they need, but they don't necessarily convert. So again, folks that we're just not touching consistently. And so Trail Moments is all about just trying to give people an opportunity to share their story, to let us know what they're doing out on the trail, how being out on the trail is making them feel, what's motivating them to get out there, so that we can all as a movement leverage that information for our own outreach and advocacy over time. All right. As we sit here and say, that was awesome again, Suzanne, let's see, drum roll, will we get any more?
And if we run out of time here for any more Q&A, our contact information is right up there. Feel free to email us if you have any other questions about Celebrate Trails Day. And of course, if you're looking for any of the resources we mentioned today, they will be on the Celebrate Trails Day website, as well as a recording for this webinar if you want to just take a look back to get a refresher, or to share it with somebody else who may be interested.
And Suzanne, looking at these pictures, our headshots, and then looking at us, I think we both have pandemic hair.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yes. Nice and
less
lengthy.
noticeable on ladies with longer hair, but I'm looking at our pictures like, oh, funny. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much. I think we're good. We will see you all on the internet, and certainly we'll see you on the trail on April 24th.